It was a quiet Tuesday evening, the kind that usually slips away without anyone noticing. I was standing by the garden gate, and a few unexpected words from the young man next door stopped me in my tracks. That brief moment changed everything I thought I knew about connection, about silence, and about myself. What started as a passing comment became a memory that has walked beside me for years, not because of the event itself, but because of what it uncovered. Before I share this story with you, take a moment to hit that like button, and if you enjoy these reflections, please subscribe so we can keep exploring these corners of life together. And tell me, where are you listening from tonight? I'd love to know which cities and towns are sharing this space with me right now. I didn't expect anything profound that day. The late afternoon sun was just beginning to dip, casting that long, golden light that makes the neighborhood look peaceful, almost timeless. I was in my late 40s then, at an age where I had finally grown comfortable with my own company, yet I still held a quiet curiosity for the surprises life keeps tucked away. I was untangling the garden hose, preparing to water the hydrangeas, when I heard his voice, the neighbor's son. Though calling him a boy didn't fit anymore. He was a man now, returned home for a season to regroup after life had thrown him a curveball. For years, I had only known him as a blur in the background, polite waves from the driveway, the occasional nod, nothing deeper. "Do you have a minute?" he asked. It wasn't the question that caught me off guard, it was the tone. It was heavy yet careful. I turned off the tap and really looked at him. He was standing on his side of the low wooden fence, hands deep in his pockets, his gaze steady but tired. "Of course," I said. The words came out lighter than I expected. He didn't speak immediately. That was the first difference I noticed. Most people rushed to fill the silence, afraid of the empty space. But he let the moment sit between us. The wind rustled the oak leaves above us, and the distant sound of a car passing was the only noise. "I've been watching how you interact with people," he said finally. "You don't just wait for your turn to speak, do you? You actually hear what's being said." I smiled, feeling a bit exposed. "I try to," I answered. "Though I'm not sure I always succeed." "You do," he insisted quietly. "Most people are just reloading their next sentence while you're talking. But you stand still." That observation hit me harder than I anticipated. In that instant, the gap between us vanished. It wasn't just a neighborly chat anymore, it was a human moment. I realized then how rarely we feel truly seen, not for our achievements or our appearance, but for the quiet energy we bring into a room. We stood there for a long time as the sun lowered. We talked about his feeling of being adrift, and I shared my own stories of wrong turns and dead ends. We spoke about how time has a way of weathering us, like stone, smoothing out the sharp edges if we let it. There was no pretense, no rushing, just two people in the golden hour, learning that vulnerability doesn't require a grand invitation. What moved me most was the quality of his silence. He didn't interrupt to offer a solution. He simply absorbed the words, and in his listening, he gave me a rare gift, the chance to hear my own voice clearly, perhaps for the first time in years. When I finally went back to my gardening, the light had turned violet. The shadows had stretched across the lawn. But something inside me had shifted too. I didn't have the language for it then, but I knew that a barrier had been lowered. In the days that followed, that conversation lingered in my mind like a favorite song stuck on repeat. Life went back to its rhythm, grocery runs, work chores, but the texture of my days felt different. I saw him again a few days later. The morning mist was still clinging to the grass. He was heading to his car but stopped when he saw me sweeping the porch. "Morning," he called out. "Morning," I replied. The greeting felt heavy with our new shared context. He walked up the path, stopping at a respectful distance. "I've been thinking about what you said," he began. "About how there's no blueprint for this." I leaned on my broom handle. "We all like to pretend there is," I said. "It makes the chaos feel manageable." He nodded slowly. "I've spent so much time feeling like I missed the starting gun. Like everyone else is running a race I wasn't invited to." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the echo of my own younger self. The anxiety that you've already failed before you've even begun. "You're not behind," I said softly. "You're just early in the process of figuring out who you actually are." The words seemed to settle his shoulders. Sometimes, wisdom isn't something we possess. It's something that flows through us when another person needs it. We talked longer than planned that morning. We spoke of his father, of my own divorce years ago, and of the strange, terrifying freedom that comes when you stop trying to please an imaginary audience. There was no advice given, no fix-it mentality, just shared truth. "I don't usually talk like this," he admitted with a shy smile. "Neither do I confessed. When he walked away, I felt a warmth in my chest. It wasn't excitement, it was recognition. It was the feeling of being part of the human fabric again, of being able to meet someone exactly where they are. As summer rolled in, our conversations became a natural part of the landscape. They weren't scheduled, just stolen moments by the mailbox or lingering talks in the twilight. I became hyper, aware of the world during those chats. The sound of crickets rising like a tide, the smell of rain hitting hot asphalt, the texture of the weathered fence wood. My senses were waking up. One evening, heavy clouds bruised the sky, turning everything a deep charcoal gray. He was leaning on the fence, looking troubled. "Do you ever look back and wish you could rewrite it?" he asked. I thought about the years I spent just surviving, head down, plowing forward. "I used to," I said. "But I've learned that clarity is a retrospective gift. You can't understand the story while you're in the middle of writing it." He looked at me. "I feel like I'm learning how to breathe again," he said. "Not because you tell me how, but because you just let me be." His sincerity touched a place in my heart I had forgotten about. It wasn't that he needed me to be a mother or a mentor. He just needed a witness. And I realized that for women my age, being seen as a source of wisdom rather than background noise is a powerful thing. "I'm learning too," I told him, about patience, and about how much I still have to offer. Rain began to spot the pavement, dark circles appearing on the concrete. We laughed at the timing and retreated to our separate porches. But before he went inside, he looked back. "I'm glad you were in the garden that first day," he said. "Medi too," I whispered. That night, listening to the rain drum against the roof, I thought about how connection works. It doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it comes quietly, wrapped in respect. It reminds us that growth isn't about age, it's about being brave enough to offer your truth to someone else. By the time autumn arrived, the air turned crisp, and the leaves began to scatter across the driveway. The season was changing, and so was our dynamic. He was leaving. A new job, a new city, a path forward. Our final conversation was brief, held in the cooling twilight. He was packing his car. "I wanted to say thank you," he said. "You helped me navigate a rough patch." I felt a small pang, not of sadness, but of tenderness. "You helped me too?" I said. "You reminded me that I still have a voice worth using." He smiled, a genuine, steady smile. "You do." We stood there for a moment, letting the silence do the work. There was no need for long goodbyes. Mutual respect fills the gaps that words can't reach. After he drove away, the neighborhood fell back into its usual rhythm. But I was different. I carried a new confidence, a quiet certainty that connection isn't about chasing people. It's about recognizing the open doors when they appear. Years have passed since then. I've met many people and had many conversations. But that memory still visits me on quiet afternoons when the light hits the garden just right. It serves as a gentle reminder. Listening is an act of love. Sometimes someone else's words make you stop in your tracks. And sometimes, in that pause, you finally hear yourself. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments below. Has a stranger or a neighbor ever changed your perspective? I read every story you share. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Until next time, take care of each other.